Hey guys, welcome back to my next video. I just got something through in the post. So this is an Amazon Basics sketchbook. So I thought I would just open this up and record this on camera, see what it's like. The size of it, as shown there, is 8.3 inch by 5.1 inch or 21 centimeters by 13 centimeters, which for people like me in the UK is basically A5. It does have a ribbon or a band on it. You can see if I shine it this way, it's not the most pristine cover, but it was only a £4.40 sketchbook or something along those lines. So pretty cheap for what it is. It does open horizontal. Well, I guess you could open it vertical, but I think it's intended to open horizontal. Personally, I prefer the binding on this side, but this was the only option. This was the size that I got, but there was a larger size available at one stage. But when I looked, I could not find that anymore. So maybe they were just out of stock at the time. So I will update that information in the description box below. But here are a few other sketchbooks just to compare. So this is more of a standard A5 size. So it's actually a little bit slimmer than A5. So it's pretty much like these, I think it's Royal Talons. I have videos on both these sketchbooks, by the way, so definitely check those out. But yeah, it's pretty close to this one. So this one's actually a watercolor one. Now I wanted to show these ones because in these previous videos, if I can open these up, I did these little tests just to see how well they did with like watercolors, inking pens, pencils, stuff like that. As mentioned, this one is actually a watercolor one, so presumably that's going to do better. But I figured I'd do the same thing on camera. I'll try and keep this video relatively quick. So just quickly before I do that, there is 72 pages, so 36 sheets of paper, and the thickness I think is about 200 GSM, which is pretty thick. It doesn't feel quite as thick as that, but it says it is. It does feel decent though. It's a slightly off-white. You probably can't tell though because of my lighting. What else? It does have this accordion pocket at the back, which isn't something I'm particularly interested in, but pretty cool if you use that kind of thing. It's £4.42 at the moment. It's a hardback and it's listed as large, even though I wouldn't really call this a large one. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's get some pencil in there first of all, just to match some of my other sketchbooks. This is just a regular HB pencil, and then followed by a B, or whatever you call the softer ones. Followed by, I actually think this one's a hard lead, but it's a 0.3. It may seem a bit pointless me doing this, but because this is only a 0.3, it can indent the paper sometimes. Let's be messy and give these a smudge. Let's see how well they actually blend. I am trying to do this quite quickly on camera. I realise that some of these aren't going to show perfectly. It's kind of for me as well, and so that it matches some of the other tests I've done. Oops. Let's see how well it erases. Again, I'm kind of curious if it leaves a mark through for the actual... It doesn't look to, I was going to say for the finer pencil nib, but that's pretty good. Because it's when you erase it that you start to notice those kind of indents. Next, let's just try a few inking pens. I sometimes go over the top and test loads of different ones, but this time I figured I'm going to try and keep this video quite quick. So it's just 3 that I had to hand. So we've got a Pentel brush pen, a Sharpie marker, which would have been handy if I'd have had a thicker one. But this is all I have to hand. The paper does say that it is suitable for watercolor, by the way, so it should in theory be pretty good. And then last of all, let's try these brush pens by Pigma. I just made a video on these. To be honest, it didn't do that well, so feel free to help me out and watch that video for a bit more detail. Okay. Oh, I'm bringing the page up a little bit there. Maybe I've overdone it. I mean, realistically, I don't put this much ink on. Let's take a look at this point, see if anything has started to seep through at all. If anything, the Sharpie marker has, just a little bit, but it's really not that bad at all. Next, let's try some Faber-Castell coloured pencils. Again, you're probably not going to be able to see this too well on camera, but I wanted to test it anyway. And they do seem to write really smooth again, just like the regular graphite. And you can probably tell there the tooth that it has on the paper, more from the coloured pencils, if you can see that. Next up, some watercolour pencils. So I've got a little bit of water on my brush, but honestly, I'm going to take it steady to begin with on these watercolour pencils, see how well it takes it, and then we're going to test watercolours where we'll go a little bit more heavy-handed, let's say. It's actually not bad. I can tell it's bringing it off a little bit if I overdo it. And I realise I'm probably not doing this right, by the way, but hopefully it gives you guys some idea whether you can actually use it for this. Let's go over it a little bit thicker, in fact. I've changed my mind. Doesn't look like it's warping the page yet, either. on to the big guns. So I'm not necessarily trying to do a really good job here. I think you can probably tell that. But yeah, I want to get some water down on this paper and some paint. And although I haven't really used them yet, I was actually really excited to get this set of watercolours. I watched quite a lot of videos, it was really well reviewed. Let's leave quite a lot on there, let's get some more water on there, splash it about. Look at this for messy. Let's get more on. But yeah, I'll put links to everything that I've used in the description box below in case you want to help me out, because they will be affiliate links. So if you buy this sketchbook through my link, I'll get about 15 pence. So you will be contributing to my wealth. Right, let's take a look. Did that go through straight away? To be honest, I know it's probably unclear on camera. The page is warping a little bit, but not bad at all, really. Especially to say it's not like taped down or anything. I put quite a bit of water on. Next up, Ecoline brush pens. So these are watercolour pens again. So I would imagine these will have a similar effect. This one is actually bringing the page up a little bit faster than the last one. Not really sure how long these stay wet to blend. Not that these look like they're blending. Yeah, you can see that he's bringing the page up this time, so maybe not the best choice. But hey, that's why we test it. Hopefully you can see that. Last of all, some Copic markers, and last time these are the ones that really did soak through the page. I mean, it's not intended for markers, don't get me wrong. I realise it seems like I am rushing this a little bit. I am trying to keep it quick because they can actually take quite a while to make these videos, and I don't want it to be super long and boring. Okay, so first layer, relatively thick, you know, quite a large amount down. It has gone through, so I probably don't need to test multiple layers for that one. Still wet on the back as well. So let me hold this up to the camera. My thoughts are the pencils, coloured and graphite, went on quite well. Even the watercolour pencil was quite good. The watercolours in general actually went on surprisingly well. I know I've not blended it very well, but that's a really thick layer. The page is starting to warp a little bit now, but maybe less so if I'd have, you know, squashed it flat. Ecoline watercolour markers, not quite as good. They put down some nice ink, some nice colour, but it did bring the page up. Copic markers or alcohol markers did actually go on quite nicely, to be honest, in comparison. Hopefully you can see that. But they do go through, so it depends whether that's an issue for you. And hopefully you can see, if I adjust this, where the lumps and bumps are. Maybe not. So just in case you want to see these next to each other to see what it will achieve, here they are. Again, it might not show on camera, but these two are off-white. This one is specifically for watercolour. This is supposed to be for a bit of everything. I'm not sure about the Derwent one. Just a general sketchbook, but the paper is a lot whiter. This is like cartridge paper. I actually really like that one. It may be worth rewatching those older videos for details, so I'll put links in the description box below. But now I'm just going to use it in the same way that I actually would use a sketchbook. Okay, so the way I would use most of my sketchbooks are pretty much using graphite pencil or ballpoint pens, most commonly anyway, so I decided to use that same Pentel 0.3 mechanical pencil. It is just a HB lead, and it did go down a little bit lighter than I expected on camera, but I think I switched out to a darker lead as I go along. I mentioned the price and the page count a little bit earlier, but it actually works out about 6 pence a page, or, you know, 12p a sheet. At the time of me buying this, I think it's around £4.40. I am recording this last section at a later date than that beginning bit, and I can see on Amazon that the larger size, which is actually A4, is actually back in stock now. So there are two sizes and they do vary a little bit. I will put links in the description box below, as mentioned earlier. As well as that, I will also put links to other videos that I've got like this where I'm reviewing different sketchbooks, those ones that I showed earlier, and more. And also lots of inking pens to test whether they're waterproof, etc, etc. Just this kind of video, really. This sketch, by the way, was a little bit random. I was just basically looking at a random reference on Google and seeing what I could come up with. I don't think it came out amazingly well, but I think it's good enough for a demo. Anyway, my final thoughts, should you be buying this sketchbook? Well, I think it's a really good price, especially considering how good this is for watercolours. I don't really have other paint mediums to test, otherwise I would have done, maybe for a future video, but it seems to hold up really well. So if you consider 6 to 12p per page of watercolour paper, I think that's pretty insane. Most people would like this sketchbook. For me, I do like it, but admittedly, I'm not a fan of having like texture or tooth on paper. And I'm also not big on off-white when I've got the chance. I would still buy these just because of the price. But for me, my personal preference is more like white, printer paper, cartridge paper without the texture. Also, my camera did actually cut off a little bit before I finished this, so I'll just put the picture at the end. If you do want to see more, I'll put all my social media links to all my artwork and stuff below as well. Aside from that though, guys, let me know what other pens and mediums you want to see reviews and tests on.
Hope you found the video useful. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel, really helps me out a lot. And that's it. Thanks for watching, everyone.